Hello and welcome back. I'm Nicole, a cottage witch, and this is the 6th installment of Garden Arcana. But today I'm going to start with a slight detour outside of my garden into a bird sanctuary that I went to this morning, which was a much needed nervous system reset for me. And we learned it's pollinator week here in the city, and so we learned about native plants, native pollinators, and it was gorgeous out. It was the perfect day for this sort of thing. And as you can see, the silverberries that I'd mentioned before as a choice for the High Priestess now have silver berries. They actually have silver berries. I'm not even making that up. It's amazing. I couldn't quite believe it when I first saw them, but they are silver berries, and apparently they're edible, although I've never tried them. I hear they're quite astringent, and you have to cook them before you want to eat them. I also found horsetail everywhere. There were literally fields of horsetail, which I'd mentioned before for the hanged man, and it was amazing. I'd never seen so much horsetail in one place and never expected to in Alberta. So I really enjoyed that. And the yarrow that I had chosen for the chariot is in bloom and looking gorgeous. Okay, it's not in bloom on my balcony yet, but the wild yarrow is blooming. Alright, and now for the cards and the plants. So today it's the tower, first up, which after my year last year is my least favorite card, at least for the time being. Last year was a heck of a year. And the Herbcrafter's tarot went with mushrooms, which I understand. However, I'm not a big mushrooms person. I'm more a plants than a fungi person. So I went with wormwood because of its associations with release in particular. Spiritual awakening, upheaval, transformation, that sort of thing. The Soulflower Plant Spirit Oracle doesn't have wormwood, but it does have mugwort, which is in the same family, the Artemisia family, which I love. We have several Artemisias in Calgary. And wormwood is an interesting plant. I've got some of it hanging around my apartment. It's extremely bitter. Pardon me. And when I say extremely bitter, I mean, I don't think I've ever tried anything more bitter in my life. It makes quite a vile tea. But it does have many traditional herbal uses, mostly to do with being antiseptic, for stomach problems, indigestion, worms. It's in particular a good deworming medicine. And the Scots have used it for indigestion, stomach pain, appetite, gas, heartburn, and labor pains for some reason. So it does have many useful properties, but it's not pleasant to drink. If you wanted to take it regularly, you'd probably opt to take it in pill form or something, because it is so bitter. But it's also remarkable. It is a plant of release, I think, which is why it's hanging around my apartment. And it's a plant that belongs with all the other plants. It's not the odd one out, really. You can find it and other artemisias all over town. You often find it in patches along the river, and it grows very well in a lot of different areas. So it's interesting to me to think about that in association with the tower, both because it is, in releasing something, you have to let something go, and it is very bitter, but it's also beneficial and natural. I mean, cyanide is natural, but aside from that, it belongs. It's not, it makes the tower, I think, not pleasant, but manageable and not so frightening. I don't have any in my garden because I don't need to. Because if I need any, I just wander down to the river, and there are a couple patches I know of where you can actually smell it before you see it. It's very common. The other plant that sort of ties in with the star as well, I do grow on my balcony, and I'll go out there at the end of filming this bit with the cards and then do a little updated video of my balcony garden in a minute. But milk thistle is a funny plant that I sort of think, in terms of the thistles and the unpleasantness of that and the protective qualities and the spikiness, can be a bit tower-like, but it's also very soothing. It very much brings healing and protection. And so in that sense, this to me represents a sort of transition from the tower to the star. And so the next one, the star, the Herbcrafter's tarot has gone with cottonwood, which I'll have to think more about. I love cottonwood. I'm not sure I associate it with the star, but that's all right. We don't have black cottonwood around here. This is the Northwest trees. We have, actually I can't remember what kind of cottonwood it is. Some sort of cottonwood, and balsam poplars are common around here. And they are the buds I've used for soothing, healing. I've made a balm of Gilead recently, which is good for muscle pains and whatnot, relieves tension. So in that way, I suppose I can see cottonwood as a star, thinking about it more now. However, the one that I went with, that actually I don't have around here, but it's a plant that I adore from a distance, is elder. I would love to have an elder bush in a backyard. That would be amazing. For the time being, I have to settle for elderflower syrup, which is my cold and flu syrup. Anytime I feel something coming on, it does a remarkable job of dealing with that. And then I have elderberries that I can use in tea. They're dried. They're just tiny little things when they're dried. So these are the plant material in lieu of an elder in my garden. But someday I will have an elder. And I chose it because it has associations with healing and hope and inspiration, as well as protection. In Scotland, it's been used as a salve for dry skin or for wounds or burns. The tea, it promotes sweating and helps with edema, though large doses apparently can lead to diarrhea, so, use caution. The thing that I find interesting about it in the Scottish tradition is that it has, allegedly, according to this book, Scottish Herbs and Fairy Lore, has a protective female spirit that will protect you against sorcery as long as you show it profound respect, which I find fascinating. It's very often used for colds, flus, fevers, all sorts of things, allergies, sinusitis, and all sorts of infections and sore throats and anything along those lines. And that's mostly what I use the elderflower syrup for. I haven't used the elder berries very much yet because I don't have a ready supply of them, and so I'm sort of saving them for, I'm not sure what, something special. Yeah, so that's one of the plants I picked. The other plant that I find that I actually walked by yesterday and wasn't planning to pick as the star, but I'll insert a video I took of it, is the flax. And here we have the Lewis flax. I can't remember its other name. As a native wildflower, and it's beautiful. It looks very delicate, although it's survived quite a lot, so it must not be quite as delicate as it looks. It's very small, very star-shaped, and also has healing, soothing properties as well. Of course, you can use it in cereals and things like that. And yeah, I wasn't planning on choosing flax as the star, but it was in bloom, and I walked past it just yesterday. So I wanted to mention that as well because it seemed to me to have that sort of energy. The last one for today is the moon, and this is probably my all-time favorite card. I love this one. Herbcrafters have chosen Datura, which I'm not at all familiar with. I know you can grow it here, but I think it might be an annual. I don't think it grows perennially this far north. It's beautiful just based on this drawing, but the one that I went with, because it's local to me, is violet. Violets, pansies, anything in that family. Here in Alberta we have something called Viola canadensis, which is a tiny little white violet, so not a violet colored violet. But of course I grow pansies as well because, I mean, this is again from the Soulflower Plant Spirit Oracle, and they're just so beautiful. I've got some on my balcony, and they are associated with intuition, dreams, the subconscious, and emotional healing. And I also dry them because I don't have a big enough patch on my balcony to harvest enough for syrup all at once. So, and they dry really tiny. Like those are just those, yeah, each one of these is an individual little flower. So you need quite a few of them for syrup, and my balcony being the size that it is, I have to save them up. So once I get a full container of those, I'll make a batch of violet syrup, and that has been used traditionally as a heart tonic, just an alternative for general health, to cleanse the blood and increase vitality. It's and all of the pansies are edible as well. It's very gentle and emollient, which means it softens the skin. You can make syrups for coughs or just make tea for insomnia and anxiety. The thing that I use it for the most is for nerves, anything to do with the nerves. Yeah, as a sort of calming, gentle, self-exploring sort of plant. In the Scottish tradition, the leaf tea, and I've never used the leaves, but I may this year, has been used for fever, headaches, phlegmy conditions, and nerves. And the root and leaf tea has been used for coughs, insomnia, and nerves. So often for nerves. Young leaves apparently are rich in iron and can be used like spinach. So that was news to me, and I will probably use them like spinach at some point. The Anishinaabe have used viola for congestion and as a gentle laxative. And so that was my main choice that I actually do have in my balcony garden for the moon. The other plant that I actually chose for the High Priestess, but does have a lot of that moon energy to me, unsurprisingly, is silverberry, which is growing silver berries this week and is amazing. It's a stunning plant. I sort of still can't believe it every time I look at it. And I passed that on my walk as well yesterday. And I'll show you a little clip where it was growing right next to goldenrod, which, spoiler I guess, will be one of my choices for the sun. I don't have that on my balcony, but it does grow wild around here. And it was just too perfect seeing such a lunar plant and such a solar plant growing right next to each other along the river. They're both native plants to this area and beneficial to that sort of river environment. So that was my garden arcana for today. I think that was everything. Yep. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.